How's it going, everybody? Welcome to another session with the Investment Dominator. And for today's session, we're primarily going to be doing our Thursday call. So if you are new to these Thursday calls, one thing you just want to keep in mind is this is where we really go ahead and focus on our more advanced topics with the Investment Dominator. And we got quite a lot of updates, going on with the Investment Dominator. So I want to go ahead and show you guys some of those new features, as well as really how the Investment Dominator is going ahead and changing. So again, this is our dedicated live session, whole hour to just all your questions and all of our answers. And if this is your first time really joining one of these streams, or even getting used to our new webinar format, you'll see that now when you go ahead and click on the link to join, you'll be presented with the join audio button. Go ahead and click that, and if you need to go ahead and change anything such as your speakers, as well as any type of, well, really just your speakers, if you need to go ahead and change that, you can do that as such. And you'll see just ways to communicate during the stream. If you do have a question where you would want to go ahead and break down live during this discussion, go ahead and use that Q&A option. If you just want to communicate to me directly during the stream, or for any feedback or anything like that, definitely recommend using the chat feature. I do have both of these up, so I'll be able to go ahead and respond to both. And there's another option there, which I'll bring up primarily just about raising your hand. You don't need to go ahead and worry about that. I'll primarily just be looking at the chat as well as the questions. And as always, keep in mind that these calls will be recorded and as well as posted onto the user guide, which we can go ahead and discuss shortly after. All right. Now, if you're hearing my audio well, go ahead and say hello into the chat. Looks like we have some people saying hello, so hello back. And we're going to go ahead and break down the LPG deal flow. Now, one thing you want to keep in mind about this is that first, really you're going to go ahead and start off with your target market. Now, once you're done getting your target market and you really decide on what area you're going to focus on, you'll go ahead and get a contact list of landowners and be able to filter through that list. Then, when you're done with that, we'll go ahead and focus on mailing those letters and talking to sellers. Now, one thing you do want to keep in mind as well is a lot of the wizards kind of break down these features within the LPG deal flow. So we'll go ahead and talk about that in a little bit. So next you have doing your preliminary research, where you will then be able to go ahead and mail out your offers, maybe even do some option agreements, and then go ahead and focus on some open escrow, do some detailed research. And now we're getting to the good part. So then you will be able to go ahead and market the property with or without owner financing, with really that end goal of selling your property that you'll go ahead and list it on your selling site and go ahead and get paid. All right. Now just keep in mind of the types of informations that are going to be entered in to the Investment Dominator, as well as what you can output. So for example, you'll have your company information, county data, offer requests, whether that be through by phone or by website, property details, as well as tasks. So all of this information, again, coming from you, being input into the Investment Dominator. And really what you're able to go ahead and output are some letters, as you see on the right-hand side, letters, offers, websites, calculators and tools, as well as analytics. And for those of you that have really been starting off your business and maybe you're starting to expand, team management. So also another thing that we do want to bring up is more about going ahead and answering our survey. So especially with the new updates that we have had, we definitely want to hear your feedback, and going ahead and submitting this survey, you'll see at the end of the stream, it'll go ahead and open up in a tab. It'll go ahead and ask you for your name as well as your account email address and just some questions pertaining to how long you've been using the Investment Dominator and such. So with that being said, now let's go ahead and dive more into the Investment Dominator. We got a lot of hellos in the chat. Very glad to see all of you back on here. And just to kind of kick things off as well, we're going to go ahead and open up this poll. Now, this poll is primarily going to ask you if you are new to the Investment Dominator, as well as if you wanted to go ahead and see any custom features talked about. And we'll go ahead and use that as a reference to really guide us through this. But let's go ahead and see if we could break down some of these questions. All right. Now, with that being said, we'll go ahead and jump into the Investment Dominator. And wow, you know, lots of changes really just happening. And one thing you do want to keep in mind, you know, if you are having trouble along the way of being able to use any wizards, if you're noticing something with your Investment Dominator that isn't responding appropriately, we definitely recommend that you go ahead and submit a ticket. We go ahead and look at that really in the mornings, the afternoons, and the nights to be able to break these down. Considering that, you know, this wizard update has been a huge change. There has been a lot of tickets lately. So we do apologize, you know, if we're not getting to you as soon as possible. But we are really striving for that. So to keep that in mind, you know, welcome these new wizards, and just kind of want to walk through first, you know, each step of the way, and then we'll kind of take it from there and just break it down. So, and it looks like everybody here is already used to using the Investment Dominator, so you can go ahead and process all advanced questions, which is great. All right. So first, let's go ahead and just talk about, where is my mouse? How this goes ahead and impacts the Investment Dominator. So first, what you're going to notice is your dashboard. You know, right when you log in, you have these new wizards, and it's very easy to go ahead and get a little bit frustrated when you're first using these because it is such a huge change. But you know, before we kind of dive more into this, I do want to make you guys aware of a specific resource. If we go over here to help and we go over to dashboard, we're going to go ahead and search for our user guide. But instead of going ahead and typing in a keyword, we're just going to go ahead and just search the user guide. So this will bring us to just our user guide in general. We could go back here to the default menu. But really what we're going to want to click on is this what's new. And this is going to go ahead and just tell you more about these wizards. We are going to have a more detailed analysis on each and every specific wizard, but I definitely recommend if you know, you're kind of new, and well, not new because this happened, I believe, last Friday. And, you know, this is really just changing how it works. And if you think about it, the welcome wizard that everybody really first used when you started working with the Investment Dominator, it's basically just branching off into every step of the deal flow process. So, you know, nothing, well, there is specific things that are changing, you know, about how you use the Investment Dominator, but these functions that are being introduced into the wizards are already in the Investment Dominator. So it's really just changing the format for you to be able to have a easy to use access. So definitely recommend checking these videos as well if you want to go ahead and see a more brief overview of this. But with that being said, there is one more article that I want to reference to you guys, and it is called, I believe you could type in system update to get it. And it's this article right here. It's called System Updates and Roadmap. Now, when you click on this article, you'll just see, you know, number one, the roadmap of our agenda with the Investment Dominator and what we are focusing on. So with that being said, right here, you'll see below is a recent list of updates with the Investment Dominator. So for example, what you're going to go ahead to see here is, you know, all of the updates that were done for February. February 10th is when we had these main wizards, as well as some more information. So We're going to break down each of these sections that were just updated and kind of show you. You may have noticed as well on your edit record page, there's a lot of new fields that you can go ahead and enter. Some of them do have functionality and some of them don't. We'll explain that in just a bit, but really just understand that there's a lot changed, and you might want to go ahead and reference this just to be able to stay up to date with the Investment Dominator. Now also, let's see here, the previous dashboard change, and then now we have some issues which are being solved. So all of this is happening at once, but also we're continuing to update the Investment Dominator. So just keep in mind of some things. One that was asked a lot, quite a lot during the questions was this timestamp. And before we went ahead and I believe the change was made so that the date was in the beginning and then it was the month, and then we're changing back the format so it's month first, date, and then year. So things like this you just want to be aware of whenever we're making these updates, and we tend to update this quite frequently. So just with that being said, now we can really go ahead and break down these wizards. And again, just to get to this article, that will be investmentdominator.com/changelog, or just system update. You can search within the keyword there. But all right, so let's go ahead back to the dashboard. And you're going to notice these first 7 wizards. So you have find deals, send letters, research deals, make offers, due diligence, as well as market and sell. So again, these are taking the steps from the deal flow process, just kind of breaking these down, but also presenting them to you right as soon as you enter the Investment Dominator. Now, what I will say is that you kind of have to treat these exactly like the wizards that were already involved with the Investment Dominator. And what I mean by that is, if you start one, you really have to go ahead and continue and finish out that task. But if you go ahead and start it and you do another task and you come back to it, maybe let's say a couple hours later, it's actually going to pick up exactly where you left off before. And that also comes into play. Let's say if you begin doing some research deals and you're midway through it, but you want to go ahead and do another property, you'll have to finish out that first really process that you were doing before you can go ahead and do that. You do have an option that'll come up and it'll be like, do you want to go ahead and restart this whole process? You can go ahead and click yes on that, and then you could just close out the wizard, and you don't have to worry about coming back to that until you're ready. But along with this update that we have here, scroll down, you'll see that you still have your records in process. Now, one thing that has changed about the records in process is that you're actually going to notice that you won't have, I'm trying to think about the best way to describe this, but basically you had your process and it would say, let's say pending preliminary research, how many open escrows. All of these would be boxes that would be presented on your screen. Now we really removed that option out, and you'll just now be able to go ahead and click into land to view your land records, houses for house records, marketing, and notes. So for example, go ahead and click on land. You'll see it brings you right to the same setup that you went ahead and are already working with here. So close that. All right, so let's go ahead and go back to this. And the last section that was added to the Investment Dominator is this task calendar. Now, we're really bringing a lot of improvements to the Investment Dominator, and especially really making the Investment Dominator a one-stop shop to be able to go ahead and, really not have to leave the Investment Dominator. Looks like question from Joanne. Make sure that you do test out your audio settings too if you are unable to hear me. Not sure if you'll be able to hear that, but just keep that in mind. So with that being said, you'll see that these 3 sections were added, and what we can go ahead and do is just take a brief overview of these wizards and just kind of get an overall adjustment to them, but as well as be able to kind of view some of the edit property settings that have changed. So for example, You can either click on to the wizards like this, and you'll see the animation pop up, or you will go ahead to land and go to wizards, and you click on one, find deals, send letters, research deals. So all of these that are previously there. Among that were some new changes. So for example, if you come over here to customize, you'll see this new wizards option, which is there. And this will basically just walk you through setting up REI print mail or Actim if you're using our active loans. And yeah, so let's go ahead and just test out the find deals one. So, really with the introduction of these wizards, you just want to know that we're trying to take these processes that were already being done in the Investment Dominator, but we're trying to simplify how you're doing it. So, go ahead and read through the wizards for the first time to be able to really understand what's going on, and then go ahead and begin to test it. So for example, if we're going ahead and we're trying to get a list of records, we can go ahead and do two options. We can upload our CSV file, or we can go ahead and use our integrated third-party data service, otherwise known as data tree. Now, let's go ahead and try this option. Now, it's going to go ahead and just basically ask you, the Investment Dominator system is integrated with one of the top data providers. It looks like you're all set up. So we already have our data tree subscription. So we'll skip through that setup process there. It's then going to ask us, would we like to load previously saved criteria or generate a new land list? Now, since we're doing this for the first time and we want to go ahead and import records into our system, we'll generate a new land list. It'll go ahead and just ask you what state you're interested in. Let's go ahead and pick, let's pick Arizona. And then let's see what county we're focusing on. Let's say La Paz. And then, it's going to ask us our normal questions for the data service integration. So example, your market value as well as your property size. So again, just keep in mind, when you're reviewing through this, some of this is really the same, but some of it is also new. So just be aware of that. But let's see, so we're going to say include owners with multiple properties. We're going to go ahead and say no to that option and exclude in-state owners. I believe that is default set to yes. Let's see, and then exclude owners on a do not mail list. No, because I don't have that ownership type. I'll just stick to individuals. Now, we're going to go ahead, click here, get our estimated record count. That'll go ahead and load. And it looks like here, we went ahead and we have, excuse me, we have about 364 records. And of these, we can pull about 1,000. So for example, let's go ahead and just take, let's say 20 records. And then I always like to tag these records, and just keep in mind that when you are starting the tag, you can remove this dash option, or you could just continue on from that. So for example, let's call this, let's say February 17th, something like that. We'll just tag it real quick, and then our 20 records. So we'll go ahead, and we do have an option to save the criteria. If we wanted to come back to this, let's say if we wanted to, still use this county and not get any duplicate records, again, we could save it. So let's say it was Arizona, Paz, and then I think I just had 17th. So I'll go ahead and do that, and we'll get that message right there that it was saved. And then once done, we'll go ahead and import the list. Now, there were some new options that were added to the data tree integration. It looks like I'm not going to get it here because the 20 records did work, but there is an additional prompt which I would like to mention. And it's basically if you are pulling from a specific county and there is an error with the records that are being imported into your Investment Dominator, you're actually going to notice that this is going to present you with some options. So it's going to ask you if you want to go ahead and edit the record. Instead of just completely rejecting the record, you now have an option to, let's say if it was just missing its first name or something like that, or maybe there was something off with the information. Now instead of getting the rejected record and you can't do anything with it, you'll now be able to go ahead and edit that record right after you import. I would have liked to show that, but it looks like we had a clean import here. So right after that, then you'll go ahead and just begin to send some letters. So you'll move to the next step of the wizards. So we'll go ahead and click that out. So next, send letters, which we have here. So just kind of think about it like the deal flow process, and really, if you're kind of confused as to where to start, what I would like to inform you is come over here to land, come over here to wizards, and you'll basically see these steps 1 through 7. It's basically the process right here. So first you'd find your deals, you'll send your letters, you'll do your research deals, make offers, due diligence, market, and sell. So just keep that in mind. But let's see here. All right, so let's go ahead and do send letters now. So we just finished the process of being able to import a list into the Investment Dominator. Oh, sorry. One thing I did forget to mention was that, you don't have to use the third-party data service integration. You can just go back to uploading your own CSV list. And if you click on that, it'll just go ahead and drag and drop your file. And once you do that, you'll just import it and it'll be imported. All right, so going back to send letters here. So with send letters, what you're going to really just see is how you can go ahead and begin to process this. So, there's the normal ways with the Investment Dominator where you can go ahead and use your printer. And for example, if you click on that, it's going to ask you to go ahead and verify your information. Now, this is something that we do on our Monday calls, really just working through your company information, but it's always great to verify your exact records that you're going ahead and sending to. Now, for example, if you notice anything that's off about any of these processes here, you want to go ahead and change that, because when you're sending out your mailing, you just want to be sure that all of your company information is final, nothing is going to change, and you don't have to worry about losing any money because you changed something and forgot that you updated it, for example. So we'll get a check. So number one, we're going to see, okay, great news. It looks like you have 36 records that are ready to go in the prospect status. And it'll say more here. So for example, 0 of the records are for the owners that own more than one property on your list. So we're going to generate our mailing campaign with 36 letters going out to 36 unique properties. So, just really glad to see what exactly is coming from the Investment Dominator, and really just seeing the growth that we're coming to. This is going to go ahead and give you that flat out response there, which is great. So then, once you verify your company information, next you'll click there, and then we'll see. So would you like to generate the letters under your profile or another team member's profile? So we have a lot of members using the Investment Dominator, and they have different parts of the Investment Dominator delegated to specific team members. So for example, if you have a team member that is going ahead and printing out their letters, what used to happen before is that it would take the name from their profile instead of the original, let's say, admin's profile information and signature. So now we do present you with this option. So for example, if you want to have this as somebody else on your team or your profile, since I am the main admin of the account, I'll go ahead and select my profile, and then I'll just ask us one more time to go ahead and review the information. So just really providing you with those checks and the step-by-step process so that everything goes according to, how you run your business. And we're really trying to improve that for everybody. So next, it'll go ahead and ask you, what type of paper do you plan to print on? A letterhead paper or plain paper. What side of the envelope would you like to print? Your reference number. So before we didn't have this option, it's usually always default on the right side. So we'll see the left side here. You can change that if you want. I'll just go ahead and leave it default. And one more message here. So would you like to add or current resident? So usually it says to whom this may concern, or I believe you can add this option here, or current resident. And let's see. So right after that, then what we're going to get is this preview, and it's going to basically show us how we used to generate our documents before to review our neutral letter. You can go ahead and see exactly if this is everything that you planned, and also keep in mind of any additional notes that you're leaving for your users. And once you're done reviewing all of this, then really you can go ahead and click on next. It'll show you the envelope preview, double check, make sure everything is good, and then go ahead, click on next again. And all right, it's time to print. So it'll go ahead and start your print job. It'll go ahead and go through that so you can print out your letters. And then now for your envelope, so go ahead and start that print job as well. And then it'll ask you just one more time. So really just, seeing what's being asked and what kind of information. We're trying to give you as much information and as much double checking so that you can really ensure that this is going according to plan. So yeah, I'll go ahead and say yes, confirmed. And then once you're done, the last thing that everybody needs to go ahead and do is just move those properties to the next status. So because we are sending our mailed letter 1 out right now from our prospect neutral letters, we'll go ahead and change those records to mailed letter 1 and then click on next, and that'll be the last process. I am just going to keep these in prospect because, I didn't actually mail out these letters, just showing you guys here. But all right, so now you just sit back and now you wait. You get that response. So those are the first two wizards that we'll go ahead and test out. I just want to kind of open the floor to some questions that are being asked now. Give me 1 second. So it looks like we have a question from Jason, and Jason really wants to know more about the process for importing that CSV list, as well as if it allows optional fields. Let's see, was that all the question? Imported. It looks like that's it. So let's actually go back to the Find Deals one, and it's going to ask, do you want to continue your progress? I'm going to say no. And now we're going to go ahead and see that we can upload our own list. So if I go ahead and do that, let's actually, let me find the list first. So for example, let's say this Florida Duval County. Some of these records I have already imported, so we'll see which ones are coming in. But for example, Jason was asking more about the optional information. So for example, we have zoning on this, which will all get added. And we'll go ahead and see that there. I'm going to go ahead and clear this out. Actually, yeah, okay. I'll leave that as such. So let's go and see. So I'll click out of this. So that was Florida Duval County with new optional fields. Let's go ahead and import that one. We'll go back to our items. Import list, Florida Duval County, this one here with 10 land records. So we'll see that there. So for example, if you need help really focusing on importing, Jason, what I can recommend is, I believe, overview. No, not overview. User guide. And you want to look up this one here, so the import. You'll still have the same options as what you did before. So again, everything is red is required to import, and anything white that you'll see here is optional to be able to add to your list. And we'll go ahead and import this here, and we'll see right there. So our 10 records were included and imported with our file. So yeah, so basically it's just going to be those extra fields that we had talked about. One thing you do want to keep in mind is if you're seeing any new fields like we're talking about on the edit property, You can use those. Actually, we're going to actually jump into that now because I want to get to that before we start doing more of the rest of the wizards. But for example, Jason's basically asking, if we go to, let's say, our prospect records, we'll go to status, search that. We're going to go ahead and see here our records. Now, when we click on edit, this is really what we're talking about. So for example, one thing you're going to notice is the several updates that have been made. So for example, assign to, you can now assign a record to a task member within your Investment Dominator. But one thing you do want to keep in mind is while we have updated a lot of these fields that we're going to discuss right now, you do want to keep in mind that some of the functionality isn't really there yet. And we're working on the updates to be able to improve that and really, bring this feature to you guys. But right now, it's more about just setting up your records and getting that information in. So for example, that new field there, assign to, you can go ahead and assign different properties to different task members. For right now, it'll just be, you doing that part, but there's no extended functionality beyond that yet. So just be aware of that. Now, when we go under to owner of record, what you're going to see down here is that there are new options. So for example, Google Analytics Client ID and Facebook ID. Again, these are features that are going to be coming, but just be aware of this for now. Scroll down, contact information, it looks like that was the same. Now we get into property information. So property information used to only just have a property address. This is now going to include a new option here under edit property. This is under property information. This one is going to be directions. So, if you're just, let's say you have the GPS location, but if you want to give specific and direct directions to get to the property, you can actually list that here. So, different fields like this, I don't think quite yet that you can import a record with this information just yet. But you can go ahead and edit that after you put it into the Investment Dominator. So hopefully that goes ahead and answers your question. Now let's go ahead and break down the rest of this. Let's go ahead and just see, what else was added as well. So now we had zoning before, but now we have use code and use. So these will go ahead and be important just to, for your zoning code that you'll go ahead and put there. And the code that you put will pertain to the specific zone, and as well as you can leave the use code. And if there's any pertaining details to that, any specific details regarding your use code that you're putting, you'll go ahead and see that. Impact fee, you'll go ahead and see that too, as well as environmental concerns. Now, this really has to deal with more information that's being added to the property. Again, this is something you would do in the edit property stage, not in importing. But you'll just notice some restrictions, like for example, if there is any flooding or if there is any, conditions that you would want to be aware of, such as a sewer or anything of that sort, then you'll just see here as well. Waste system, water system requirement, those information's right there. And then flood zone description as well. So keep that in mind. We'll scroll down again. For property value, I do believe there was some information that was added here, as well as just extended types, improvements onto the property, as well as, are there any power lines to the property? Does the property have road access? These are now features that you can add to the specific records, which you'll see here. Let's see here as well. Owner's interest in property. So more along the lines of here, but now you can add, if this property is listed with the realtor, you can go ahead and list your your seller's agent's name or company, as well as their phone number. So this would all be, something you want to keep in mind of when you're making these changes. And for example, this admin only property research, there was some new features added here as well. So for example, maximum offer amount. So let's say that if you're if you are on the call with somebody and you go ahead and you pull up their record, one thing that you want to keep in mind of is the offer amount that you'll first go ahead and pitch. And then, for example, let's say you have a maximum offer amount, something that you would want to keep for yourself, just so you could be in discussion and you don't have to make these calculations on the spot. You can actually already have them saved into your Investment Dominator. So you can go ahead and leave a maximum offer amount as well as a maximum option amount too. So just be aware of that. And let's see. So there are some things that did change as well to the property listing. So for example, we'll see property listing here. You can go ahead and update your pictures. There is average temperature here, as well as sale price, listing contact name or company, is there financing offered, as well as an order link. So for example, the order link and the order link post variables, these are not going to be having functionality, but again, you'll see these coming in in future updates for the Investment Dominator. Go ahead and you can select videos as well. You want to go ahead and upload those. You can do that, and as well as list a listing contact's phone number. So all of that is changed within the property listing. All right, so now we have more about transaction information. And really with the transaction information, one thing you want to go ahead and do is just review some of this. So for example, we'll see purchase closing company as well as attorney. These are new features which have been added to the Investment Dominator. So with these are included within the wizards, but they are now being just brought to your specific records. So since you're entering all that information into the wizards, it is populating within the record itself. So whenever you save and make those changes, you'll notice those changes update your records. So just keep that in mind. Again, a purchase closing type. So we do have some new drop-down options for that. For example, if you're using a closing company, if you are using a real estate attorney or a notary public, you'll go ahead and choose one of those options. And you can go ahead and list out your closing company or attorney, as well as the sale closing type. If you're using again, those options which were presented, go ahead and list those new fields that we have here too. All right, and then if we scroll all the way down to the bottom, we'll see highlighted is the same and activity log is the same. One thing that did change was the orientation around uploading your files. So for example, when you go ahead and now update, let's say you want to add some pictures or just any sort of information, for example, to your records. Now when you click on locate file, you can go ahead and actually update that right down at the bottom here. It's before it used to be like up here, but now it's moved down to the bottom. So just be aware of that as well. But all right, those were all the changes that were done onto the edit property that we wanted to discuss. And let's go ahead back to the wizards here. So we went ahead and we did find deals as well as send letters. We're going to go ahead and take a look at research deals. So now when we're going ahead and doing this, let's click on that. So this is going to ask us to conduct our preliminary research to determine our market value. So we're going to go ahead and need to search for a record that we're working through with. I think I have one that we can see, but let me see. I wanted to get one with a specific value. Let me go ahead. Well, let's just walk through this and, basically gather all the steps. So for example, you'll go ahead and choose your property that you're going to want to work with, and then you'll begin your preliminary research. It'll go ahead and ask you more details about the property. So for example, property review and characteristics. I will go ahead and see property address and all of these fields they should be highlighted in, well, they have a little asterisk in red. Those will be required. So for example, property zip, you'll see is required here. Let's say 005. Say something like that. Click here to set the property location. Let's say Woodbridge. We'll go ahead and save the pin. So I'm just going to pick a location for now, just so that everybody can really see what you can add. And you'll just see the process doing as I am doing as well. And property zip will be here. And we did find our location on the map. In number one, you'll see the map printout right there, as well as our GPS coordinates, which is great. And then we'll scroll down. So there's more information here. So for example, all of this information that you're seeing here was under that edit property. And this is going to be able to go ahead and answer some of those questions as well. So we'll click on save and continue. It says, will your offer include any county back taxes, leave out against the property? You'll want to take a moment to contact the county treasurer or use the county website. So for example, if it does, let's say, yes, it does, enter in the amount owed. Let's say it's about $500. We'll go ahead and save and continue. And then now we're going to want to go ahead and do some comparables. So for example, we do have these sites listed out here, which we do use to be able to get these comparables. And if you do remember, this was actually included within your edit records screen. Well, you'll go ahead and choose these options anyway. So again, just changing the orientation, really the whole process is still the same as it was before. For example, you go ahead and add your sold comparables. You'll go ahead and write a source, your URL, your headline, description. So I go through all of that process here. And let's say, for example, we click on Zillow. Let's go ahead and just grab this link there. And then we'll come back here. So for example, for that, we'll go ahead and say that we got our source from Zillow. You know, here's our link. This will be our headline. We'll scroll down. So, you know, you can add your description as well as you want to include any featured images. Size, let's say 1.4 acres. Sold date, let's say something like it was sold on November 1st, and we have a sold price. So we're going to pitch it at about 2400, just like that. I did just now try to go ahead and add the comma, but it actually does auto-generate that for you. So just keep that in mind. Go ahead and add the comparable. So now when you see you have a comparable, you'll actually see it right there. So I really hope you're seeing just how this goes ahead and eases up the process for you. We'll go ahead and save and continue. So now there's any listed comparables that are there. Do the same thing, same process. And once you're done, you'll summarize basically what you found. So for example, all of your comparables that you put together, and it'll just ask you one more time. So based on this data entered, would you agree that the property market value is around 2,400? Now, given that this is just my example with the one comparable, you know, once you really start adding all of your other comparables, you'll be able to get that justified amount, which is good for you. And then bam, you'll just basically get that notification right at the end that, you know, basically giving you the summary details of what you would pitch the property at, as well as the county back taxes that are owed. So we'll go ahead and finish, and that'll go ahead and take you through the first three wizards here. And yes, just to keep in mind, you can, the question from Jane, can we do more than one comparable? Yes, you can go ahead and do multiple comparables. I do think that for that specific question, if you're focusing on the link, you would have to add them as different comparables. So just keep that in mind. Let's go ahead and see if we have any other questions as well. Jason was asking a question just about, you know, putting in a ticket for the ability for the new fields. Now, you know, this is being currently worked on already. So all the information that you're seeing within the Investment Dominator that you can now add, that feature is coming in a future update. So it's already being worked on, and I believe to best stay kind of updated with that, you can go back to that article that we mentioned in the beginning, the system updates one. You'll see that coming real soon. All right. So it looks like we have a question from Andrea. And Andrea wants to know if there is, it looks like she's focusing on the selling site number and how she can change that. And let's see, when she was looking into the company information, it only lets me change the company number, but there's only one option for the number. Okay. So Andrea, it seems like there's a lot to that question. I might need you to help me kind of put that together as I'm explaining this, just to make sure that it's making sense. But if I'm getting this right, and this also brings us to another topic when we're talking about updates. So we're in company information. Now you're going to notice some new changes here. Really, the change that we want to keep in mind is the extension. So now you are able to go ahead and actually see, you can write your numbers there, and now you can go ahead and leave an extension. So for example, your company phone, if you are using the, we'll go ahead and bring up the diagram here, the recommended phone setup with 2 lines from Ring Central, then you're going to go ahead and notice that, you know, you do have your extensions here that you need to focus on. Now, your local number 1, extension 1 is your company phone, as well as your local number 1, extension 2 is your offer phone. So, and then, you know, your local number 2, no extensions here, just local number 2 is your selling site phone. So just want to explain that a little bit before we dive into that question too from Andrea. But you go ahead and see here your company phone. Go ahead and list that, and then if you have a possible extension, you can leave that there. And as well as your offer phone, if you wanted to go ahead and leave out an extension there too, you can go ahead and leave that. Oh wait, sorry, that would be extension 2. So again, you know, same numbers that we're working with here, but different extensions. So we did understand, you know, that there was still need to be able to write your extensions after we took away that feature from just being in the company phone. So hopefully this will go ahead and help those individuals, you know, that really have that 2-line setup. But all right, so just to kind of explain this in further detail, what we're going to go ahead and see here is our websites. We're going to go to our selling site, and we're going to see this number right at the top. So it's going to say call us at, you know, this number that we've provided. And that number that we provided, if we go ahead here to our selling site phone, we'll see that there. That should be there. What I'm going to go ahead and do, let's switch back. So I'm going to go to selling site settings. I'm going to switch to my 2.0, and I'll update my site. We'll go to websites. Let's say opt-in page. All right. Let's see the selling site. All right. So the phone number won't be listed at the top. Let's see if I could change that. So what we're doing right now is we're just showing Andrea how we can go ahead and see what number is being displayed on our selling site. And one thing that you might want to do is you'll go to edit your selling site menu. And to get here, all I did was go to customize, and I went to, where did I go to? Website settings, selling, yep, selling site settings. And then right here, and then when you click on that, this option here, manage selling site menu, we'll click on that. And then we'll see, you know, our header and then our footer. And this is really where we are creating the pages that we're working with, and then we're adding them onto our headers. So for example, what we'll do is go ahead and grab phone number, and we'll leave that there. So we see header menu, and we'll add our phone number to this page, and we can do the same for our footer. We'll leave that down there as well. So now when we hit save, We'll refresh the Investment Dominator. We'll come back to our website settings selling, and we'll see our phone number right there at the top. So for example, our selling site phone, which is this 718-712, where are we? Yep, 5040. So just one thing you want to keep in mind is, if something is not responding correctly with a custom theme or not something that you want to intend. For example, if you're trying to edit text onto a custom theme option, you may find that there are limited options. So it will always be best to just go back to the default theme for your selling site or to a 2.0 theme. And this is the 2.0 theme here. But all right, just clarifying Andrea's question. So she meant her buying site, but she wants all buying and making offers and questions about offers on the letters we send to be directed to my phone. Okay, so Andrea, I'm hoping that you saw kind of what happened before when I was processing, I believe it was the send letters. And the specific part about, do you want to choose your information to go ahead and print out on the letters, or do you want to choose another team member's information? You'll want to go ahead and be sure that when you're walking through that step that you're selecting the specific information that you would want. So, or what you can do as well is if you come over to customize, depending on who is the admin of the account, and who is doing the specific mailing, you would want to make sure that their information specifically is updated to your liking. So for example, if you want to go ahead and we're talking about the offer phone, we're talking about our buying site, you can go ahead and actually list that there. And you can change it specific to be exactly what you want. But again, if you go through the wizards, there is a specific option that will say, whose information do you want to use? So that goes for your company information as well as your, your signatures. That's what I was thinking about. So just keep that in mind. All right. So let's see if we have any more questions here. Let's see. Okay, so Stephen Jones had a question, and it was more along the lines of a, let's say, like, what do I do if I have an issue with one of the wizards that I'm using? And, like, what are kind of the steps to be able to troubleshoot that? So, for example, let's see here, it was the make an offer one. So, for example, let's say you're going ahead and working through this wizard, and you want to go back and you want to change some of the steps that you're working with, or let's say you couldn't function one of these features. So one thing you want to really do, so let's say we're in the process of this, we go ahead and select this record, and just to kind of reference again, this is after research deals, this is our make offers, so we'll see that. And every time, remember, every time we've already opened the wizard and we went through a first step, it's going to ask you to come back and continue your progress. So there are a couple options here that you can do. So if you notice some issue and you're really stuck on the page, you can really have this thought in the back of your head. And just remember, like, every step of the way and every step of the wizard, when you're hitting next, it's going to save all of your progress that you've been going ahead and working through with. So at any time, you can really come back and, if there's an error, you can close the tab if it really comes down to it. What I like to do is hit the escape button as well. That'll go ahead and close it out, but you'll see here, you can close a tab, come back, and just be reassured that all of the progress that you made wasn't lost, it was saved, because it'll go ahead and save after every step. So we'll go ahead and say no, let's say. And we have this one here, so let's select this one, 0.7 acres of land. We'll go ahead and review it. So now it's going to go ahead and ask us to verify the property. So, if there's any improvements, as well as if there's any access. If you need to go ahead and change, let's say, the back taxes owed or the estimated market value, you'll see all of these changes here. But since we don't need to, add any notes or anything of that sort, we'll go ahead and click on next. And now it's going to ask us to determine an offer. So this is really where the flexibility comes in. It's going to tell you, the market value that you estimated previously. So for example, you'll see 11,500 here. And it says, we'll recommend that your offer be between 2,800 and 3,900, which is between 25% and 34% of the market value for the property, estimated market value for the property. So if you want to go ahead and change that at any time, you can just move that forward. And just keep in mind, so if we go ahead and select this number here, and we go ahead and click on next, that was saved. So that'll go ahead and be saved into your Investment Dominator. And the next time you go ahead and, let's say, if we click out of this and come back, it'll go ahead and leave that for us there again. And then now it'll just go ahead and ask us, so how would you like to print your offer package? Two options here that you can choose from. We do have printing service as well as my printer. Let's go ahead and do printing service. We'll see that we have all of our formats here. So go ahead and click on that. We'll get our offer agreement, our Exhibit A, as well as our envelope label. You can review all of that information as well here too. Now keep in mind, because it is a doc format, it'll have these specific indicators here. So once that is done, you'll click on next, and congratulations, you successfully generated an offer, and it'll just basically walk you through it. But again, at any time, if you, let's say we'll come back right here, and let's say that we exit out of the wizard, like, oh no, what do we do? Like, well, we can come back and we could say, do you want to continue your current progress in the wizards? Yes. And we'll be right back to where we started. So, really hope you guys are all enjoying the benefits that are coming. For those of you that are frustrated, kind of getting used to these new changes, we do want to say that we are hearing you. We definitely hear all the feedback that is coming from these tickets, as well as from the feature request options, and we are looking to improve the Investment Dominator really for everybody. So, with that being said, hopefully that goes ahead and answers your questions, Stefan. And it doesn't look like we have any more questions for today that we're going through. Let me just double check everything. And yes, Stefan, really practice makes perfect, and especially getting used to these new wizards, it will take some time, but just keep in mind that we're really trying to simplify everything. You can really just, come back here, and you can still work through your land section. For example, we'll go here to status, we'll go to prospect. You can just, say you don't want to deal with the wizards, and you can come here and be able to, just generate your documents like such. Specific other processes as well too, if you need to just come in here and change any of the records, or let's say, when we're adding tags or anything of that sort, you can go ahead and continue that on. But like I said, don't be don't feel like, when you're making these tickets that you're not being heard. We're going to go ahead and answer to each and every one of you. And, we're really trying to be able to help everybody come together with this. So with that being said, let's go ahead and talk about our quote for the day. So it looks like we have a little bit of time left. We're going to go ahead and end on our quote like always. And our quote today comes from Antonio Brown. And the quote goes, "The journey is never ending. There's always going to be growth, improvement, adversity. You just got to take it all in and do what's right and continue to grow and continue to live in the moment." So, I chose this quote specific to the Investment Dominator, and being that, there's a lot of change coming. And there's a lot of features that, we've been thinking about to really improve your user process and your user flow. And with all of that, and with life, change is going to happen. And one thing that you can do to prepare for it, like Stefan had mentioned, is really just practicing. Practice will go ahead and make you perfect. And really, once you start to understand and utilize these wizards, we do hope you see an improvement not only with the Investment Dominator, but also in your business. So, as always, stay motivated. Please reach out if you have any other further questions just about anything with the Investment Dominator. We'll go ahead and take a look at that. And we hope you guys have a great rest of your day. And all right, we'll see you next time.